Do you know what is an Olympiad? Olympiad. I'm sure that most of you do not know. You know.
Maybe it's the same of the Olympics games?
No, it is not the same. Olympiad, please.
Maybe.
Please.
Between the universities or like for schools?
No. An Olympiad is the 4 years that are in the middle of 2 Olympic games. So the Tokyo Olympiad started a few days ago when the real games finished. So this is the 4 years of Olympiad. Usually in these 4 years, each Olympic organizing committee is working on art, on education, on philosophical approaches in order to pass the messages to the people in their country that the Olympic Games that they are coming with all their history and everything. So this is what Olympiad is. And now the most important thing is that Mr. Luis is coming into the room. Luis, do you allow me to say hello, a close hello to him? Please. Come on, Luis. I've worked with this man. Break? Coffee break, yes. He's very efficient, eh? If you don't know yet, use him. He's very efficient. Okay, so the question is now, what is Olympism? We saw what Olympiad is, but what is Olympism? Well, here where we start, depending on the researcher or teacher, I'm sorry to read some of my presentation, because if I don't do that, then you will have me here for the whole day. They used to say that to a professor or to a lawyer, especially when they are retired, if you give them a microphone, he will never give you back the microphone. You see, so I will stick with my presentation here, but then I will stop and I will make some explanations. And of course, I listen to your questions anytime. Please, you raise your hand and you ask me whatever you want. How do I pass the second and third? Yes, okay. So, depending on the researcher or teacher, or again, the objective or the analysis that any of these wishes to present, Olympism can be defined, understood, and interpreted as a philosophy. It can be interpreted as a positive perspective, as a theory, an outlook of the world, but certainly as a stance of way of life. So what really was philosophy of Olympism in the past? Because everything started from the ancient Greece. Everything started there. Of course, it was not called Olympism by that time. It was called the philosophy of life. And this is the most important thing to do, to see how the ancient Greeks were watching this kind of philosophy, this approach. The development of the meaning of Olympism, given that the term belongs to the reviver of the Olympic Games, Pierre de Coubertin, must first be sought in ancient Greece, as we said, philosophy, and the effort to create an ideal model of citizen. Subsequently, we met the same features in the work and vision of Pierre de Coubertin, who through the conservative society of the late 19th century, wanted to convey the same message about the ethical and educational dimension of sport. The third development of Olympism is encountered in our days, that is the end of the 20th century and beginning of the 21st century, which with the notion of the amateur athlete being replaced completely by the professional athlete. Now, what I described to you reading this paper is this. If you want really to approach the idea of Olympism, you have first of all to see it, and when we say Olympism, we mean Olympism and its values. We have to see it from the very beginning. We can see three different periods of Olympism. The very crucial periods of Olympism. The creation of Olympism, the innovation, which is Coubertin's period, and the third period, which is the contemporary period. These are three different periods, and of course, three different levels of approaching Olympism. Now, Olympism in ancient Greece, we will come back again in these three different stages, but I want first to come in ancient Greece and to see how they approached in ancient Greece. So, the characterization of this philosophy in ancient Greece, which included a set of values completely in keeping with physical exercise and education, as Olympism belongs to the revival of the Olympic Games Baron de Coubertin. He was the one who called that Olympism. Why? Because it was coming from the Olympic Games. But the point of Olympism, as we will see in the past, it was how to create the best men. And we will see how they thought of approaching that. Especially Homer, in the 8th century BC, in his epic poems Odyssey and Iliad, he's talking about that, and talks about the societies and about the values of the people and the ideals they embraced. Plato and Socrates. I'm sure that you have heard about that, or if not, it's good to go and read about Plato and Socrates. You can see many things that happens in this real life internationally. You will see it through Plato's approaches and books. So Plato, who was himself an athlete, he was saying that sports helps in the endeavor to achieve the virtue of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And Socrates, that the ideal environment for teaching is the gymnasium. That was the most important thing for the Greeks of that time, to help the young people in the gymnasium to prepare themselves in both the education and the physical education and the education in general. So that was the best way to make